What's popping? It's been a while. You know what else has been a while? Since we got a good adaptation of Ghost in the Shell. That's why I've resorted to returning to the franchise's holy grail. Standalone Complex. Yes, I know. When are you gonna talk about something else, Toko?
Shut your fucking mouth! No problem, John. Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
So anyway, this isn't a video on the show, the movie, the other movies, its sequel, the manga, or Jesus, how bad were they milking this thing? Holy shit. No, what I'm interested in is exploring its original attempt at continuing from where the first season left off. I'm interested in the predecessor to Second Gig, and a product I can argue was, for the lack of a better word, made far too early for its own good. A unique attempt at the original SAC canon by telling a gripping, unique, and tumultuous narrative that looks to have immersed us in the complex world of, well, Standalone Complex. Immerse us in way of a medium that at the time was still in its infancy. Additionally, I thought this would be an appropriate time to come back and discuss it as a tribute to Atsuko Tanaka's legacy, who recently passed and was a contributor to this very adaptation. Her notable work will not be forgotten, as it is thanks to her that we were given her distinct voice as the Major. And thus, without further ado, I present to you Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex for the PlayStation 2.
Who's the peeping Tom of you?
Sure, how I get it. Major, I can trust you on this, right?
Trust me?
Son of a bitch!
Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex for the PlayStation 2 is the first video game to adapt the SAC universe and the second ever Ghost in the Shell video game. The first exploration the IP made into the world of games was a 1997 third-person shooter on the PS1. That had one play as a Fuchikoma, the manga's version of the Think Tanks, to go through a variety of levels. That game had focused on being a far more faithful adaptation of the manga, in way of its art style and even having a fully voiced and animated set of cutscenes in that same style. SAC PS2, on the other hand, is a far cry from its predecessor, whilst also containing a few nodbacks to said game. As stated previously, this game was released exclusively on the PlayStation 2 console in 2004 on March 4th in Japan, with a North American release date following suit on March 8th of the same year. It was released a mere 6 or so months after the finale of the TV show's first season, clearly riding on its success, and the want to delve into the video game industry was their way of trying to get more people invested in the franchise. From concept to the final stages of development, developers Kavia and the anime's production company, Production IG, were both heavily involved with one another. Kavia, while no longer around, developed notable games like Drakengard, Nier, Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, and Dragon Quest. They had been the team that worked directly with Production IG to develop the computer-animated opening for the first season. With around a total of 50 developers, 2 of which were staff from IG, the game took 15 months to develop overall and 6 months to write. Kavia intended to specifically pay homage to the material their game was a part of, whilst at the same time making something fresh. They were deliberate and focused on accentuating the two primary characters, this being Meiji and Bato, via their designs, animations, and personalities.
What kept you?
How about a little gratitude, lady?
You say something?
No, nothing.
Whilst Production IG were the ones in charge of developing the sound effects by making them in-house, to make sure the game had a very standalone complex feeling. Furthermore, the official Japanese game guidebook for the game shows much of Kavia's original concept art, even containing a variety of scrapped ideas that you never got to see. Key contributors from the staff over at Kavia and IG included motion capture advisor Toshio Kawaguchi, whose expertise helped deliver fluid, dynamic animations, and mechanical designers Kenji Teraoka and Shinobu Tsuneki brought much to the game's technological aesthetic. Additionally, the soundtrack by composer Nobuyushi Sano, with its riveting drum and bass beats, drives the intense, immersive tone of the game. Sano's emphasis on kineticism through his music helps stay true to the overall franchise's music compositions, often being in line with experimental and electronic. Masamune Shiro, the original author of the manga itself, was there to help both IG and Kavia in the conceptual stage. Most, if not all, ended up later going on to work on other Ghost in the Shell projects, such as Arise and Innocence. What one can deduce from all of this is that this game is not just a project outsourced to a group completely unaware of the task that they were given. Instead, it is the culminating project of various well-known contributors to the Ghost in the Shell license. Because I also cannot forget to note that the dub and sub voice cast consists entirely of the same actors as the movies and shows. And that, well, that just shows the dedication to staying faithful to the franchise it is very much a part of. But we've been talking about how much this is a game, right? So how game is this game? Thankfully, this game doesn't degrade its universe's unique setting to a generic arcade shooter that makes a bunch of bullshit new characters and turn its iconic cast into one-trick ponies, because that would never happen for something like Ghost in the Shell, right? Right? Its gameplay is high octane and is driven by a need to always keep moving forward, with much of its adrenaline-fueled playstyle coming from the character's moveset, equipment, and level design. Its intensity is further supported due to the composer's soundtrack, who stated that the emphasis on drum and bass tracks helped support the idea of speed. In this game, you take control of two characters, the first being Moriko Kusanagi and the second being Bato, both of whom you take turns playing between the game's 12 total missions. It contains a variety of weapons, all of which are faithfully modeled and audibly designed after the show, with a shotgun, launcher, and sniper, giving us more access to experience weapons we were previously only ever allowed to watch be used by the characters. Items one can pick up in the way of consumables, like active camouflage, can be used to escape a tight spot, with a slow motion consumable appearing in one's inventory when the player's health is near critical, and would actually disappear if you healed up. Ammo, restoration kits, and body armor are the conventional items one can find in a game like this, and they do exactly as their name suggests: give you armor, heal you up, give you ammo. Various grenades, such as frags and shot grenades, can also be found, with throwing knives being exclusive to Major's character. In regards to overall controls, the game plays like a third-person shooter with a reticle in the center that shows where you are aiming. However, its movement is given a slight change of pace via flashy dodges, especially when looking at how they are executed when playing as Major, as Bato's is far more basic. Many of these systems can be argued to be rather clunky by today's standards, and even the 2000s, because a common system implemented in most third-person shooters nowadays is the aim-down sight, and this game lacks it, so you're mainly going to be strafing left and right until your reticle turns red to know that you're hitting your target. Furthermore, limiting a unique ability such as active camouflage would have been far more appropriate to implement as a long-lasting ability ingrained in Major herself, given her notable use of it in the shows and films. You find this camouflage at most around 4 or so times throughout the game's 4 to 5 hour runtime, and it's obvious it was only there to squeeze through situations that would have otherwise been a pain to fight through. And like I said, Bato's gameplay is also not free from criticism, as he's the weaker link of the two, with him moving slower, playing slower, and lacking Major's parkour and maneuverability. Yet the subpar shooting mechanics are enhanced in way of the unique movement system for Major, as she can jump wall to wall, hang, climb, and jump off ledges to gain a better view of the situation. While Bato, well, bro's built like Chris Redfield, so he's not gonna be doing any fucking backflips. It's a real shame, actually, because there was a clear drive to differentiate the two characters' playstyles, but ultimately one lacked far more compared to the other. It would have been far more compelling to have Bato play a more tank-oriented role, focusing on having an increased health pool or using unique gadgets to contrast Major's acrobatic moves. Also, the Tachikoma, who are seen throughout the game's playtime, are given a brief yet fun play section in a large arena with vantage points and other spider tanks to fight against. This honestly should have been Bato's whole gimmick throughout the entire game. The tank's unique role as a support would have sufficed far better and would have drastically improved Bato's otherwise dull and bog-standard gameplay. Difficulty itself also plays a major part in this game's frustrating core mechanics. As though you are technically meant to be a military-grade, extremely high-end manufactured cyborg, you ultimately get shot down quicker depending on what difficulty you play on. Mind you, the footage you see throughout the video is of my first run, which I chose to play on hard to experience the game's complexity to the max, and then replayed it on normal to focus on the story. As such, these criticisms really demonstrate how undercooked the core design principles are when tackling certain situations. But yes, don't worry, I didn't forget that what this game most prominently advertised and was praised for was its use of hacking. That's right, something it would shamelessly steal from Watch Dogs 10 years prior.
I could have left a fucking bomb in there. Do you want to know why I didn't?
Because you're fucking stupid?
Because we have...
The game offers the ability to pick up ID tags, which then mark enemies throughout the map. Occasionally, these enemies would have a blue marker rather than the usual yellow marker. What this meant was that you were able to hack said marked enemy by first bypassing a security wall and fitting the inner circles with the outer circles. You can summarize the system as a simplified jigsaw puzzle with moving pieces. Yet once again, this for the most part was far too complicated the longer you played, and grew more irritating to get through due to the multiple security levels, timer reduction penalties, and how quickly these damn fucking circles spun. God damn it, slow the fuck down. But when you do manage to hack an enemy, it adds unique variety to the gameplay loop, as it helps you not worry about your own vulnerability. I only wish that the mechanic was more polished to be far less hectic to execute. In terms of level design, the scale and complexity vary throughout. The two playable characters significantly impact the fun and flow of each mission, with each section crafted to suit their unique playstyles. The first mission, on the pier, introduces acrobatic moves exclusive to Major. using cranes and storage containers to show her agility. Meanwhile, Bato's missions tend to unfold in tighter corridors, emphasizing spots for cover and strategic peeking. The visual style of each set piece is particularly evident, featuring expansive, almost maze-like piers filled with storage containers, as well as military refuge zones that blend industrial and residential elements. And the third act takes place in an underground factory where the characters split up. As each character progresses through the respective paths, the environment becomes increasingly ominous and complex, drawing them deeper into a mysterious metal-encased vault of military secrets, meaning that each area feels purposefully constructed, enhancing immersion and making it all the more interesting to experience the story. All these criticisms and points brought up show a clear tug and pull for wanting to innovate, yet failing to do so at the same time. On one hand, you have a dense world filled to the brim with details and visuals directly pulled from the show itself, and on the other, you have a tedious and at times frustrating core design system that trips on its own 2 feet. It's a complicated relationship that really just goes to demonstrate that this game really just wants to be its own season of standalone complex.
There's someone else besides me who is accessing this guy's cyberbrain?
Bryce?
Come here, hurry! If you don't, I'll be erased by...
If only you people hadn't shown up.
Where SAC PS2 falters in being consistently fun, it makes up in droves via its narrative, but that in and of itself has issues, and you'll see me refer to these issues as we progress through it. Now, much of the attention to detail in the story can be attributed to the writing staff who directly worked on the show itself. From start to end, there is an underlying level of accuracy in the way characters are depicted and how the narrative unfolds. Like I said previously, the story will take you around 4 to 5 hours, depending on your own expertise with these games and the difficulty you choose to play on, but it is plenty of time to set up much of its tone, as it implants a small seed of something that sprouts into something far bigger the more you progress through it. Standalone Complex as a whole never relies on ham-fisted exposition. Much of its dialogue, and in turn its story, unfolds very naturally. Characters speak of topics, policies, conflicts, and relationships to the limit that their own knowledge of the subject extends to. As a result, the viewers may surmise that the topic requires a little more attention from them. If you stop paying attention, you might miss key information and become extremely confused to its sinuous structure. Thus, SAC PS2 functions very much the same, as the story does not pull its punches in expecting you to listen. The story begins with a very short wall of text that brings forth how, even in this advanced age, individualism is improbable among the interconnected network of a larger complex structure. It then instantly throws you into a debriefing that is being undertaken by Section 9 regarding an illegal's arm trade near a pier. Major and Bato are the only members ever visibly seen to be present, with the rest of the team playing their own parts in unraveling the story by speaking over your comms. As this mission commences, Major is tasked with infiltrating the pier, and right from the get-go, the increased security is suspicious. Once she makes it to her target, it is revealed that they, or rather he, is only a brain in a brain case body known as a Jameson type. Her attempts at accessing its contents are then quickly cut short via a direct hack, causing her to disconnect from the cyborg as well as lead to his death. This sparks suspicion that perhaps all of that which has just occurred is part of something bigger. One thing leads to the next, and we then find ourselves searching for a courier who was in contact with a now dead suspect, whom we found out to have had the name Takaru Fuwa. Now it is Bato who is tasked with reaching the courier via a parking lot riddled with the same soldiers from the pier. Once we do reach the target, only a case is found, the contents of which are far lesser than we first suspected, with it just being a bunch of rice. The rice is then found to have been micro-machine rice, exported abroad, with the funds for it coming from the TAR, the Tohoku Autonomous Region. A trail left by Fuwa then directs the team to a storage facility that might possibly contain his original prosthetic body. Once we find the memory box of his body, we learn that it was Fuwa who was controlling the Jameson type at the pier, and that various records about his previous actions may have been forcibly deleted. Thus, the next order of action that Major and Bato are given is to infiltrate the Tohoku Autonomous Region, the original point from which Fuwa pulled his funds from. The story ultimately leads to Major and Bato going to the TAR, through some convoluted explanation which can be simplified to the director returning from a trip by taking a train that is the only way they can enter it. This entire autonomous region is, in my opinion, brilliant and fascinating to delve into when going through it for the first time as a player. It's thoroughly realized, and from the very start you see a clear set of levels to the environment and the way life went about here before it was shut down by the government. There are recreational buildings, living quarters, and etc. They emphasize that this is a city in and of itself, hence its name, an autonomous region with its own unique body of governance. There's even a dam, which as you go deeper and deeper only guides you further down into an entirely different infrastructure dedicated to agricultural research and military ordnance. But that's enough of that, as Major and Bato then crash the train due to the train getting hacked. This causes them to split up, and Major then heads through this region to end up at an apartment building that has an abstract message about heading further down to the rice fields. As you progress through this mission, interactive items reveal that a scientist named Kei Yazawa is the primary instigator of everything that's happening. The deeper you go, the more you uncover a conspiracy surrounding the rice Bato discovered in the parking lot. Yasuo Fuwa, the director of the TAR named Toshimi Tagami, and a fourth suspect named Goto are all involved, and the story unfolds to show a fallout between them. Goto and Fuwa's actions led to the Japanese government patenting the micro-machine rice, turning it into a profitable commodity, a move that fuels the violent schemes set in motion by Yasuo and Tagami. In a late twist, Yasuo and Tagami are revealed to be siblings, determined to keep the rice out of corporate control, and Tagami is also an expert in psychological and cyber warfare, who has the past experience of being a special ops commander, who was given the name the Choreographer. Meanwhile, Goto and Fuwa, labeled as traitors, are killed by Tagami after attempting to leak the rice's secrets to outsiders. This intricate plot gradually reveals an agricultural arms race with escalating tasks, as the government scrambles to cover up the conflict. And the TAR has been distributing virus-laden micro-machine rice to locations with government officials, using the threat as leverage to negotiate hostages in a bid for regional independence. The story presents an intriguing concept, with Major and Bato as the primary lenses through which the plot unfolds, drawing us in as their dynamic and shared history fuel the narrative. Their banter creates some of the most enjoyable moments of the entire game, as the writers, well versed in these characters, bring out deep philosophical reflections and moments of real intimacy.
What'll come out, the tiger or the lady? Shall we open it and be surprised?
Why not?
Major's role places her as a neutral observer, one who respects the perspectives of all parties involved and advocates for self-righteousness as the true measure of right and wrong. In a pivotal twist, Major is also implicated in Goto's murder, which leads to Bato casting bombastic side-eye her way every chance he gets, especially after a fake Major nearly kills him near Yasuo's corpse. It's later revealed that this framing was orchestrated by Tagami, who had stalked Major throughout the first half of the game to develop a prosthetic body in her likeness, although this major twist does raise a significant plot hole. How did Tagami already have her body? We're led to believe that Tagami's mastery of ghost dubbing and hacking made this possible, due to her skills as a hacker being on par with the Major's. Tagami's impersonation of Major leads to a climactic showdown in an underground bunker where the rice is being grown. The battle between the two Majors is really entertaining to watch, and it's resolved in a nod to an earlier moment where Major gets annoyed with Bato calling her by her first name when he's genuinely concerned for her, which, mind you, is a staple of his character across the franchise, and it's nice to see this callback.
Motoko!
In the end, while they're fighting, Bato calls out to the two as Motoko, prompting to him bringing down Tagami after she ends up responding to his call. However, before her defeat, Tagami triggers a self-destruct sequence for the entire facility. With the help of the Tachikomas, Major and Bato do manage to escape this flooding complex, and in the aftermath, we learn that the rice patent is revoked, partially fulfilling Yasuo and Tagami's dream of creating a better world free from corporate rule. The plot tackles complex themes and portrays political espionage in a way that feels appropriate and realistic. So, what's the issue? Well, the problem lies in the game's struggle to escape the shadow of its source material. The show it draws from has qualities that the game, as a different medium, lacks. The interconnected story of the show has room to unfold naturally over more than 20 episodes, some of which don't even focus on the main plot, but instead explore themes of interpersonal connection. From the outset, the show establishes itself as a neo-noir thriller, often presenting scenes where characters work through clues and information in tense, quiet rooms. There's a lot of dialogue and analysis, with less lipping, climbing, and shooting during critical moments. In contrast, the PS2 game leans heavily into action, with little space for the complex story to unfold at a digestible pace. Often critical information about the TAR, Tagami, Goto, and the micro-machine rice is delivered during moments of intense gameplay, where the player's focus is elsewhere. The game doesn't seem to understand when to convey essential story elements or attempt the show's careful handling of layered drama in a way suited for a video game. Unlike the show, which only shares vital information when characters are in a suitable environment to receive it, the game suffers from ludonarrative dissonance, becoming convoluted. Key story points often come during action-heavy sequences, like while taking down a Gigabachi chopper or scaling down a building under heavy fire. It's difficult to pay attention to what Ishikawa is saying when I'm trying to not die.
It's almost certainly something that he wrote himself. Maybe he survived, laid low in the Tohoku Autonomous region and got mixed up in this case. The dam was built before the war, you know. Still, it was built with the latest methods back then. I don't think it'll be that easy to destroy. Here's a stunner. Tagami is writing the source code for a tactical AI all by herself.
Shut the fuck up!
That isn't to say it never works. Cutscenes are some of the few moments that manage to capture the show's steady pace, where character interactions and key information are more thoroughly presented. Ultimately, this game is an interesting product of its time, clearly influenced by popular fast-paced shooters like the Max Payne series, but therein lies the core issue, a lack of unique identity. While it includes intriguing elements like optimal camouflage, ghost hacking, and compelling political conspiracy, as well as well-written characters, it doesn't push beyond those aspects. The challenges of adapting such a complex franchise may suggest it wasn't well suited for the gaming medium in the first place. Or perhaps it was simply ahead of its time, limited by resources that couldn't fully capture what made its source material so impactful. Hi, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Originally, I was planning to overanalyze and comment on every element of this game's story, but I kinda realized
this is boring.
So instead, I chose to summarize and speak on that which stood out to me the most, without boring you guys on the details of why Bato came across some random fucking room with a piano wire in it. Yeah, that's a real thing, by the way.
What's this piano wire?
Must be the prime line. That's the device that checks the slant of the dam.
They sure are using outdated gizmos.
Okay.
I've also never talked about a game so thoroughly before, and I didn't want to overcomplicate things like I do sometimes when approaching television or film. It's also been a long time since I've made a video on this channel, so I lacked some confidence in my abilities. To those who are returning to me after so long, thank you, it means a lot that you stayed. I just fell out of being able to make these videos due to the school I had at the time and my overall mentality in getting these projects done. I still love watching, experiencing, and also playing much of what you see on this channel, so I'll see where I can go from here, as I do have more videos planned, but hey, like I said, we'll see how that pans out. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this game. Is there anything you found captivating about having such a faithful adaptation of SAC be depicted in video game form? Was this faithfulness a problem to you like how it was to me? Is there something that stood out to you about it? Let me know down below in the comments, as I love seeing you guys engage with the content and the sharing of your opinions. But I think that is all for this video. Have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.
Love that was there. See